All right. I guess we made it. It's hard to believe. Hard to believe we made it. Incredible. It only took me 4 minutes. Sawadee Kap, Saturday Night Live. I apologize for this delay. At least it was shorter than it could have been. Uh, always happens. Before we start, always happens. I have these problems that are maddening. Anyway, incredible. So, Sunday Night Live here in the great US of A and in Europe. I'm afraid it's too late. Um, I, I got some notes from people from France, and they're telling me it's 1 a.m. there, so that's kind of a bummer. So definitely don't tune in live. Just watch the restream because they're all recorded. Remember, they're all recorded on all the different platforms except for TikTok. It's the only one that doesn't do that. And let me try to find something here. We can get rid of this. Ah, here we go. Yeah. Okay, good. So I wanted to just make a couple of announcements. I'm. Oh, by the way, next week, the Beljanski Cancer Conference in Jacksonville, Florida. Um, I'll be speaking there on the Sunday, right? Yeah, Sunday at 2:30, and it's only 27 minutes. We all get to speak 27 minutes. Like, yay! It's crazy, but I don't really unless you are telepathic and you can like download somebody's mind. I'm not sure how much you can um, convey to anyone in 27 minutes. So it seems like it seems like going to a seminar where they're only going to a food. You go to a banquet and they're only serving hors d'oeuvres. That's what it reminds me of. You guys, this is a banquet with only hors d'oeuvres. I don't understand the purpose, and nevertheless, here we are. We're going to be part of it. So, and there's going to be many great speakers there. They say so. I'm not sure, but anyway, you're very welcome to join us there. Now, the other thing is, my calendar is going to open up soon. Uh, I've been over here, as you know, and when I'm over here and I'm working in clinics all day long, it's just really, really impossible for me to do any quality um, consultations. And I usually do them like I have a 6 a.m. one, and then maybe a 7 a.m. one if I'm done. But anybody of you who've ever consulted with me know we never stick to an hour, which is how do you stick to an hour when someone's telling you the most important history of their life? You can't stick to an hour. But anyway, so I never do. But anyway, so sometimes I have to do one at 6 or 7, and then I run to the clinic, and then I get done, and I come back here, and if I do one at night, I'm just not. It's not. It doesn't work out that well. And and plus I'm doing this 7 days a week. So forgive me for a while, and when I get back, we'll get the thing go. We'll get the consultations going again. So what else am I reading here to you? Uh, uh, people are requesting here to be in my live. I'm not sure what that means. Okay, so a lot of questions. Thank you. Um, anyway, I didn't say aloha and namaste, namaskar, and uh, to everyone. So really, thank you for joining me again. Anyway, just to remember, we're on Rumble now, and I'm gonna get once I get to the point where I can do a Rumble show. We're working on it right now. We'll do just a Rumble show where I don't have to be so hesitant and just speak my mind. So it's rumble.com/. Dr. Thomas Lodi, right? And also all the other ones, Twitter, which is, I don't know if it's X or Twitter, whatever it is, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, they're all at Dr. Thomas Lodi. And then, except for the Twitter X, which is at Dr. Thomas Lodi, MD. And then, of course, you can go to the website, drlodi.com, and go to the /live, and then you can stream it from there as well. And then they're kind of edited up and all that for podcasts. So, but we're also going to have different podcasts. I've got a couple cool podcasts coming up. Part 2 with Dr. Donato Perez Garcia, who's the grandson of Dr. Donato Perez Garcia the first, of course. Although he wasn't the first, because they didn't call anybody. They don't call the first because they don't know if there will be a second, right? But anyway, so he discovered IPT. He did IPT 40 years. His father did it like 45 years. And Donato, the guy that I know, has been doing it 45 years. So together you got 120 years of IPT. Whoa. Okay. So there's nothing new about it. Anybody tell you it's new? You know a lot about them, right? Just by saying such an absurdity. Anyway, so we're going to have part 2 of that. We're also going to have Rebecca Steele, who is a nurse practitioner in Chicago or around there. Anyway, around Chicago. And she's the daughter of Dr. Stephen Eyre, who's the doctor that I knew who introduced me to Donato way back around 2001. He's a Canadian. He was a Canadian physician, and she was his daughter. So anyway, she was very well connected with the whole IPT thing coming to be. And IPT, just so you all remember, IPT does not have to be with low-dose chemotherapy, although that's what it's usually referred to. But it's insulin potentiated therapy, IPT, insulin potentiated therapy, because you can use it with anything. In fact, Donato the first used it to work with people who had tertiary syphilis, that's syphilis of the brain. And one of the conditions that he worked with were CFCs, chronically fermenting cells. So you can do it. You can use different kinds of whatever kind of medications or intravenous botanicals or other concoctions that you may want that you think are going to be useful in a certain condition. The whole idea is that insulin helps you target these tissues. Okay, and so instead of whatever you're injecting going everywhere, it goes to one place. So it's pretty phenomenal. And the beautiful thing about it is that insulin is something we produce. It's not foreign to our bodies, right? So anyway, yeah. So and then all these, as I said, all these are edited, and so that there's not so many of my and we can put it, and it's on podcasts. So I think it's a lot of times it's easier. So anyway, let's get started. And then I'll try to answer try to get some of your other questions. Oh, by the way, keep in mind that if you're in the United States or North America at all, and you have CFCs, chronically fermenting cells, whether I'm here or not, an Oasis of Healing is my center. I started it. Actually, I started it in New York. We didn't call it that then. And then after a few years, I moved to Arizona, 2004, where we started it here. I founded this with a new name and all that. So, but the whole concept, the whole idea started around after I returned from Japan, I think, 1998, 99. So it's been around, and we've refined it, and that's all of the latest and greatest stuff is happening in Arizona here, at an Oasis of Healing, and I'm in touch every week, regardless of where I am in the world. I am in touch every week with the doctors there and the other kitchen staff and all the therapists, and there's many aspects to healing from CFCs, many, right? It's not just one thing, and we're going to go over that again and again and again and again, because my 2 main goals for you is to understand that most of what they say, and by them I mean the witches and warlocks in the House of Horrors, most of what they say is designed to scare you to death, confuse you, and so that you can, and that accomplishes two things for them. Number one, you're going to agree to do almost anything they say because you've basically had an emotional frontal lobotomy due to fear, due to severe fear, which is, as you know, has happened to many people since the Great Hoax. So it's a strategy that works. So what you've got to arm yourself with is what? How do you arm yourself against fear? Knowledge. Knowledge is the bridge that takes you from fear to faith. And what is faith? Faith is when you know what's going to happen. You don't believe it. You don't think it's possible. None of that. You know it's going to happen. Just like when you cut your finger, you're peeling something and you cut your finger, you don't believe it's going to heal. You know it's going to heal. You rinse it off, you put a Band-Aid, and you're done. When you know whatever's going on in your body is going to heal, it's done. You don't need anything. But that's really the major trick of all of this. So I'm going to answer all your specific questions, as many as I can, but I just want you to know the ultimate is here. This is it. This is the obstacle. The root of the tree that is bearing different kinds of fruit. Okay, the kind of fruit you might see on a PET scan, the kind of fruit you might see on a MRI, all those kinds of fruits. That's what I'm talking about. Those are just fruit on the tree. Cutting them off, burning them off, doing all that stuff doesn't change the fact that the roots are still there and you're going to have a harvest. Okay, so we've got to work on that. And we can, and it's possible, but only if you know it. You got to know it. And yes, you got to do all the other stuff we talk about. You've got to clean up. You got to get rid of the initiating factors. If you don't get rid of the initiating factors, if you don't eliminate the initiating factors, then how could you ever successfully return to health, be restored to health? You can't. Right? So it's these are just common sense. You don't have to go to medical school. You don't have to go to any school. You just have to be like alive on the earth with your eyes open and listening and watching and being observant and understand the way life works. Interesting. Somebody said they had phlegm in their throat and won't go away. Always, always, always. Anything like that, or actually anything, stop eating. Stop eating a couple days. Drink a lot of water. Good, healthy, beautiful water. Mineral water. Or do a juice cleanse feast. Or do water. It goes away. Remember, it's reacting. Mucus is a reactant. It's pushing stuff out. It's a conveyor belt that's coming up through. We have these little cilia in our bronchi and our bronchial tubes that push everything out, right? And the mucus is like the conveyor belt, and things get stuck on it. The small particulate matter gets stuck on it. It goes back out. So mucus is mucus is one of the modalities by which the body moves things around. But it serves many other purposes too. I mean, beautiful, wonderful, incredible body that we have. This earth suit. I mean, I met someone this weekend, an amazing woman. I won't even tell you about her because it blew my mind. I mean, I'm still trying to put it together, all the stuff she told me, but wow. Anyway, she's the only other person I ever heard call this an earth suit. Yay. Okay, now let's go to some of these questions. Okay, it's ulcerative colitis caused by parasites most of the time. No, they contribute, but probably many of the times it's involved, but there's usually not one thing that causes anything. Remember, anything that we see that we're causing a thing, we think it's a thing, like whether it's ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, gastritis, arthritis, cerebritis, pharyngitis, osteomyelitis. I mean, any of those things, or CFCs, or stroke, or any of those things. These are fine. A lot of them are final dead-end pathways, adaptive pathways that the body has taken to attempt to maintain functional integrity in the situation where it's not having its biological needs met. It's really very, very simple. And so it goes along these pathways, which are, and it's not like, so many of these pathways are the same. So you keep, so what causes stroke? Well, many things that will lead to that final pathway, which is what? which is what is stroke? I mean, just for an example, what is stroke? There's two kinds. The artery can get blocked, small artery gets blocked, and there's a failure of blood to go to the brain tissue, or a artery bursts and it floods it with blood, which is very, very got a lot of iron, causes all kinds of, with oxygen and iron, and you've got a big, big mess on your hands. So either way, that's what it is. So it's arterial blockage, okay? So arterial blockage. And what does the blockage do to? The blockage is due to the body adapting to the fact that the person is not eating human food and not eliminating it quick enough. And on top of it is probably stressed over being late for that, being late for this, broke a fingernail, whatever, all the things that we live in, right? So again, don't look for cures. I got to read something. I got to find this. This is the right time to do it, okay? This is the right time to do it with you guys, because I just want you to, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't read. Morgellons is Morgellons a parasite or a fungi or a fungal overgrowth? Morgellons is most likely synthetic biology, okay? That's what Morgellons is, most likely. It's been around for years. They brought it to us live back when I think I first started seeing it around 2006 or 7, yeah, in people. But it's synthetic biology. It's not real biology. But it's nevertheless it affects us greatly. I think Joni Mitchell had it. You know, I don't know if you all know Joni Mitchell. Many of you don't, but hopefully some of you do. And Joni Mitchell was an amazing, amazing, amazing woman. Singer, artist, incredible. I don't know if you know her songs. Both Sides Now. Anybody hear that song? The Circle Game. Did you ever hear that song? I mean, she was crazy, amazing. And her words, you know, Dylan-esque. I mean, it's, anyway. So let's get to some of the questions that you all sent in. Okay, so how do you get rid of, this is from email, website. How do you get rid, and then we're going to go, don't worry, Instagram and everybody else. How do you get rid of, oh, by the way, you guys, I'm still not on Facebook. If you, and one other thing I got to tell everybody, if you ever get a notice from me, it's not from me. I don't do those things, and neither does my team. We don't send out notices. If we send anything to people, it's an email. Okay, so if you're going to get a notice from us on any kind of social media, it's just not true. And now they're using my it's so crazy, man. These guys are, you know, Facebook, I can tell you about Facebook. Let me tell you. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care. One more time. They don't care. Why? Because now they told me what? I said, hey, by the way, we can't get into our account anymore. So I got, we've got 21 cases open. 21 different times we had to do that. We had to tell them that. And then they said that they wanted to get my ID, prove that I owned the business, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. Instead of the person who was working with me, who opened up the account for me. Anyway, so I said, oh, I'm not going to do that, you know. But then actually, she did. It was very wonderful of her to do that, and she did that. And then I think they even gave mine finally. And you guess what Facebook said? You shouldn't give out personal information because it could be used against you. You know, you could, in other words, you could have, I forget what the wording, but in other words, somebody that's like a hacker could get the information. What? So how long's it been? 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks before I came to the US here. They're still not letting us back in Facebook. So, by the way, I don't care. I'm going to close it if I can. That's all. I just want to close it because right now there's people selling, showing, I don't know. There's all kinds of ads with me, like as if I were endorsing it. So I don't endorse anything ever. You've never seen me endorse anything. I talked about the Beamer was like the only machine I've ever talked about. And I talk about Rife in general, Rife machines, because they're fantastic. And I happen to have an amazing one right now. So, but I don't endorse things or products. I don't. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to just tell you the truth. That's it. Tell you the truth. Not selling anything. Really not selling anything. I'm really very bizarre in that way. I don't think health and all that stuff is a commodity that can be sold. I think it's our birthright, and we think we deserve to know about it. By the way, God. If you don't like the word, let's call it divine intelligence. And if you don't like that word, let's call it nature. Gave us only one drink. Now, we don't have a whole fountain there. We can choose this and this and this. One drink. It's called water. And about 98% of anything you drink is water anyway, with flavoring or poisoning. More often poisoning, yeah. So anyway, here's the question. How do you get rid of skin thickening on breast from CFCs? And is keto and ketosis the best way to kick it? Thank you. All right, so this is an important question because, excuse me here. Yeah. Let's get this over. All right, so cool. Okay. Now, I wanted to, I looked over a little bit earlier. I wanted to just tell you. So, and I want to take this into other things. So it's not only for breast CFCs, okay? And by the way, for those of you who aren't aware of the fact that breast, we call, I don't like the word. I have to do this. What do they call it? What do they call it? I can't remember the term. But anyway, I need to let you know why I use CFCs. I don't like the word. You know that word for the zodiac sign that falls between Gemini and Leo. Yeah, you know that. Anyway, that word that falls between Gemini and Leo is a nasty word, and it hurts. It's painful. And anyone who's ever been called that, anyone who's ever had that spell put on them, can tell you 100% that is painful. Tell you the truth, Doc. Do you dye your hair? What do you mean? Do you think I'm going to lie about it? Yeah. Couldn't be as old as I am without doing it. Is that okay? Does that make a difference? Anyway, what I wanted to let you know about, and I want to make, okay, so I told you before, I wanted to show you, there was two main things I like to teach. Number one is that what they say is designed to scare, not to help, not to educate or anything like that. Scare, and so that they can sell their products and services. That's it. And well, and then I just want you to realize that their whole jargon, their whole rhetoric, their whole thing is just distraction and confusing and unnecessary. Okay, because the reason we call these CFCs, these chronically fermenting cells, is because that's what they are. A moment ago, I was saying that if you had a stroke where you had blocked arteries, heart problem, myocardial infarction, which is called a heart attack, or whether you get ischemic bowel, whatever you're going to get, it's due to the same thing. Again, it's due to the fact that you're eating too much volume, frequency, and poor quality of somewhere between the food and non-food. Most of what we eat is non-food. Okay, and then we're not eliminating, and that stuff just collects all over the body. It's called waste. It's called toxemia. 100 years ago, 105, 110 years ago, John M. Tilden, MD, published a book called Toxemia Explained. And that's basically it. So I want you to know. I want you to understand that. So we're going to talk about this for a moment, and then I'm going to show you. I want you to really understand and stop using their words. I can see your questions. You're using their words. You're going with, and I get it. You're not trained in this area. You didn't learn. You don't really know what else to call it. So I get it. I'm not at all criticizing anyone. I'm just saying that let's stop using their words. So I'm going to tell you what it's really going on, and so we can call it what it is. So these are chronically fermenting cells, right? And they're fermenting because that's an adaptive pathway that happens when a cell loses its ability to use oxygen in order to produce energy through its mitochondria. It's just that's what happens, right? It's just like 3 comes after 2. It's not like a big deal. And everybody's got these CFCs going on in their body because we've got these little dead end pathways where we're not meeting our biological, and because we're not just biological, we're biological, psychological, and spiritual. When all of our needs are not being met and they're not in harmony, our body needs to adapt to maintain functional integrity. And that's what we call diseases. There are no diseases. There are no things out there. There are no third-party things that get into your body. And when I'm not talking about parasites, that's everything. But it's not a disease. It's parasites that have gotten into your body, and they're living there. They've colonized, and they're usurping your energy. They're usurping your stuff, and they're modifying your immune system. And they're doing things like that. But it's not a disease. Okay, what it is, it's these parasites. Okay, but diabetes, on the other hand, is not a thing that got into you. It's a response, it's an adaptive response to the fact that you're eating too much glucose because you're eating pasta, bread, potato, rice, and whatever. Okay, that's what that is. And most of the other conditions are like that. And when we talk about inflammatory conditions like arthritis, gastritis, colitis, all that sort of thing, all these itises, and which includes a lot of the autoimmune conditions, is remember, inflammation, acute inflammation is the way we heal from an acute injury. Chronic inflammation is when you keep your body, either all of it or a part of it. It could be your finger or whatever, your hands from if you're a gardener, your hands are going to have it. You get chronic insult to some tissue, and then you get a chronic inflammatory condition. Okay, so put that on top of the fact that you no longer have you have chronic insult, and you're not eating food, and you're not getting rid of the waste, and then what's going to happen? You're going to have problems. Clearly going to have problems. And if it shows up here, you're going to call it this. If it shows up there, you're going to call it this. But it's the same problem. It's the same problem. The underlying fundamental problem is accumulated toxins, okay, in the body, which affects immunity, which affects your ability to deal with it. All right. So anyway, but I wanted to talk to you about the woman who asked the question about the thickened skin on the breast. Now, and what I meant to be saying to you a little earlier, but I got how my mind works. Anyway, the cardinal signs of inflammation, right, are it gets enlarged, it gets red, it gets warm, it gets painful, and that's it. Yeah. So, they had Latin terms for it, but basically it's all due to blood flow going to the place. Calor, dolor, rubor, which is red, and tumor, which is tumor, enlarged. Now, tumor doesn't mean a malignant condition. Tumor, a blister is a tumor. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily mean a malignancy. So that's why they say benign tumors, malignant tumors. But anyway, so inflammatory breast is what they talk about it as if it's a type. Let me just read to you what they call it. Inflammatory breast CFCs is a type of breast CFC in which CFCs block the lymphatic vessels in the skin of the breast. In other words, what it happens is if you've ever seen a woman's breast like that, or if you have one like that, the thin, and they call it, I mean, I don't know if they're trying to be cute, or maybe the first guy that saw it called it this. He was in France. He called it peau d'orange. Right? I'm sure I'm not doing that right, but peau means skin de orange, So skin of an orange. So, and it looks like skin of an orange. And it's thickened, and it's red, and all that. But what I want you to understand, they're calling it a type of CFC. There are no types of CFC. There's only one biological type. There's only one biological. The different types are just different locations of the same thing going on. But when that same thing is going on in a different location, it'll have a different appearance. I mean, the manifestations of it will be different. So something, if I have something going on in my head, in my skull, it doesn't have a lot of room. And if it moves too much, I'm going to be gone. If it's in my pancreas and it moves a little bit, My pancreas is right in the middle of everything. It's right in the middle, you know. It's got the spleen, it's got the kidneys, it's got the adrenal glands, it's got the small intestines, it's got the stomach, it's got uh, 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 the biliary system. It's got, you know, it's just everything. So if it grows anywhere, it's going to touch something and affect something. So it's not that it's a different type; it's the same biology. Anyway, and I hope you can appreciate what we're going to go into now. So what they're calling IBC, they have the acronyms. Let's use an acronym, right? IBC in this case means inflammatory breast zodiac sign. You know, it's a rare aggressive form of breast CFCs characterized by the rapid clinical appearance of erythema, redness, edema, swollen, and pudorance of the breast, thought to be the result from the presence of tumor emboli in the breast lymphatic, dermal lymphatics. What does all that mean? It means that, you know, when you have skin has got the outer layer, which is called epidermis, and the dermis underneath it, right? Okay, and then you have, you know, underneath it, the subcutaneous areas with, you know. Anyway, the dermis has lots of lymphatics in it. In fact, if you've ever get a real good lymphatic massage, you'll see that they're touching you very, very lightly. You know, it almost feels like, you know, almost on the verge of tickling. You know, it's a very, very light, and that's because we have a great deal of our lymphatics in our dermis. But we also have a lot inside. We also have a lot inside. You know, in fact, you know, one of the reasons for deep breathing with diaphragmatic breathing, and one of the reasons for belly laughing is to get the diaphragm to constrict the cisterna chyli, which drains your lower extremities, your abdomen, and your left arm, and it all goes into your left subclavian there, which is your called your thoracic duct, and that's the lymph being returned to the blood, and then the right arm, and then the right upper extremity drains into the right side. But most everything goes there. So by doing that diaphragmatic deep breathing and belly laughing, you're moving your lymph. It's a lymphatic. It's a great lymphatic. So, anyway, so it's not a different type. So please, I want you to understand. What was your name there? Let me see. Did I get your name? Your name was Kelsey. Yeah. Okay, Kelsey. So that's let me go over here. Okay, so that's basically what it is. You understand? It's the CFCs have moved into the lymphatics. So that part of the skin's not draining. That's all it is. So really, what would be the best thing to do? You know, it's if you understand what it is, instead of calling it something like inflammatory breast CFCs. What? Okay. You got to give it a name of some sort. But by understanding what it is, you say, well, then of course we've got to move the lymphatics along. That's what we got to do. So lymphatic massage, which is, you know, and I'm going to have on one of my podcasts, I'm going to have this our lymphatic therapist. Her name's Tyshell. She's an amazing woman, lymphatic therapist. But the certified lymphatic therapist, and then there's kind of like two levels. One is they're certified to do manual, which is lymphatic massage, and the other one is a certified lymphatic therapist would learn things that most doctors and nurses just don't know, and that is the detailed arrangement and anatomy of the lymphatic lymph nodes. We don't learn that. I mean, we study it, but we don't use it. You know, we don't use it clinically very much. So we don't. That's not part of our vocabulary. It's not part of our thinking. It's part of my thinking because I understand with the lymphatic how important it is. It's the transportation and communication system of the of our ability to develop an immune response. Yeah. I'll repeat that again on that. Okay, of course, you guys. I'll repeat that about the parasites again. I'll repeat that again, but no problem. But here, so what a certified lymphatic therapist learns is, for example, when women get a mastectomy or even a lumpectomy and they take out like whatever 18 20, 30, I don't know what they take out, and lymph nodes. Okay, so now when you want to make sure that you don't have lymphatic congestion and all that stuff, which way do you direct the flow? Well, you can ask any, unless it was the surgeon that did it there, you're not going to know. You know, the surgeons that do that kind of operations will know. They'll have an idea. Maybe if they're even looking at that, they're really looking at what they should take out and all that. They're not necessarily looking at what is functionally left physiologically, right? So certainly nurses and other doctors don't know that. So they can't know it. And then so if you go to a lymphatic therapist and they don't know that, and they direct the lymphatic flow in the wrong way, you're going to cause an increase in congestion, which is not your goal. All right, because I have seen, because we've always had these kind of lymphatic therapists. I've seen women with extremely large masses go in and come out with 30, 40% less, 50% less in one therapy, because a lot of it is congestion. Okay, I see some stuff coming up here, you guys, about chemotherapy and all that. So I guess we're going to have to get into that. Really going to have to I'll bring that up again. Okay. So a lymphatic therapist is essential. Now, so suppose you have pancreatic CFCs and you had a Whipple procedure, okay, or your colon resection, right? And they took out 50 lymph nodes. They should be arrested for that. What the heck, man? Why do you think God gave us lymph nodes? And if you don't like the word God, you like the word divine. I like the word divine intelligence. And if you're still not happy, you want to call it nature, call it nature. But why would nature do that? Give us lymph nodes if they were unnecessary. We have a lot of them, 60% of them are in our gut. Must be a good reason. So going and removing a lot of them is not smart. It's stupid. I may have told you this situation. I had a story. I had a man here in Arizona with a woman. I'm sorry. With CFCs in the colon, and she had a few surgeries before, and they had taken out all sorts of lymph nodes, and there was scar material and all that. So we worked with her. The CFCs were gone, but she ultimately died 2 years later because of complications from having all these surgeries of bowel obstructions. She never could eat. She couldn't eat. She always had bowel obstructions. She was in pain. The whole thing. It wasn't even the CFCs anymore. So anyway. So here in this, I'm just going to go back to that question. So the diagnosis of IBC is primarily clinical. What does that mean? That means it's by what you see. That's what that means. So it's not a thing, please. Okay. So now it says, however, a tissue diagnosis is still necessary to establish invasive breast CFCs. Why? I mean, they just throw that in. Now, the extent and duration of clinical signs required, in other words, what you see. What exactly do I have to see to say that I have this diagnosis, right? Diagnosis is a word. Okay, so how can I define this word in clinically on the person? It says it's not been well standardized. Okay, so they had this big study, and they said here it says the 7th edition of the American Joint Committee on Cancer, the AJCC, suggests that diffuse erythema, redness, and edema, pudendals, should involve a third or more of the breast. Now, okay, should involve. So that's kind of a rough thing to give it this diagnosis, and it's not a type, as you can see, it's just a thing. It's just, Anyway, neglected locally advanced breast CFCs presenting late in the course of the disease are not to be considered IBC. Wait a minute. Neglected locally advanced. Okay, in other words, they didn't do anything, they neglected it. But it advanced locally, so it was getting larger and larger. So now if you think that is, no, you can't call it that. So you have to understand what they were talking about is absurd. It's not like, so in summary, there was a big study they did. They took, where was it? How many they took? I got to tell you this. Anyway, let me just say. In summary, our results suggest that the clinical diagnosis of a substantial proportion of IBC cases is unambiguous, but in certain cases, it is difficult to distinguish it from other types of locally advanced breast CFCs, particularly those that show extensive redness, erythema, and plutons. Anyway, what I'm trying to let you know, please understand this, is that all this means is that the lymphatics there. So if you went to a lymphatic therapist and they did that, and they also did electrolymphatic therapy, and you did a lot of movement and working on it and stuff like that, you just got to get things moving. It's congestion, and that's really a big part of all illness is congestion, from being not movable, not moving around, not moving. Having a sedentary lifestyle is going to result in congestion all over the world, all over the body. Now, so the question is keto and keto. Okay, so in other words, the way to deal with it, Kelsey, is to do the what I said, lymphatics, but eat right, go to sleep, do a lot of moving around. CFCs is not coliform, it's chronically fermenting cells, which is what they call, cancer. What they're calling cancer is chronically fermenting cells, okay? I don't like the word that they use, cancer, because it strikes fear into people. And I don't like people to get scared. There's enough stuff out there to be scared. We don't have to add to it. And plus, fear, remember, is only going to make you make mistakes. You won't be able to make rational decisions. Out of fear, you won't make rational decisions. All right. But keto and ketosis. Lots of things are parasites. Lots of manifestations are parasites. But remember something too. You can't just take a bunch of drugs to get rid of something, even parasites. But you've got to also change your lifestyle. Okay, it's essential that you change your lifestyle. This is all. I mean, without it, you're going to get back in these same situations. Okay, there's never a time with any condition in which your body is adapting, okay, where you don't need to change your lifestyle. There's never a situation, unless you grow up in a situation that's perfectly, and if you did, you grew up in a perfect situation, which that might not be possible on the planet at this time. But if you did, you wouldn't even be sick anyway. Remember, illness, what we call that, is just a adaptive response. Ketogenic. Okay, ketogenic is the word's overused. We talked about that a lot. Its word is overused. Keto means ketone bodies. There's 3 ketone bodies that result when you break down fatty acids. When fatty acids are being used through beta oxidation of fatty acids, when that's being used, it breaks down into 3 ketone bodies. One predominantly beta hydroxybutyrate is the main one, and then the other 2 are mild and not used for much fuel, but they're still used for fuel a little bit. But so it's a more energy yielding fuel than glucose. Okay, you actually get more energy from broken down fat, than you do from glucose. All right, so so keto, and then ketogenic. Genic comes from like the word Genesis, to begin, to initiate, so now, but the word is way overused. Everyone, it's very, very much confused. You've got to have an idea of what is therapeutic ketosis. Most of us, if we eat right, we stop eating 3, 4, 5 hours before sleep, we're going to wake up in a mild ketosis. That's just the way it is, and that's good. That means you had a great sleep. You did what you needed to do for restoring your body and all that. You're going to wake up in mild ketosis. Okay, very good for you, because ketosis cleans the body. It's a good way of cleaning the body. Now, if you do what's called a ketogenic diet, that means you're eating about 80% fat, 10% carbs, 10% protein. Very, very difficult to do. Especially if you're eating animals, because you got to eat mostly fat of the animal. which is not fun. So much easier if you're doing a plant-based ketogenic diet. But what is your goal? Is your goal to have your glucose to ketone ratio 1.5, 2.0? Well, no. If you have CFCs, you want to get it to less than 1. And even that, remember, if you're in ketosis, you're going to force, remember, there's two basic fuels for CFCs, right? One is glucose and one is glutamine. Glutamine is an amino acid. They're both used, both glucose and glutamine are used for many other things in physiology and biology, but in our bodies by CFCs and non-CFCs. However, so anyway, so they're both fuels, right? So if you're pretty much ketogenic, you're going to force the CFCs to become glutamine dependent. So how do you not provide glutamine and glucose? There's only one diet, and it's called water. All right, and but again, that's not necessarily, you know. So what I'm saying, and even if you're doing what's called a ketogenic diet with your goal of having your glucose to ketone ratio at less than 1.0, which would be considered therapeutic, that means there's more glucose than ketones. Glucose divided by ketones should be less than 1, meaning, right, the ketones were larger than the glucose, which is the numerator, right? And you know, and so no matter what kind of diet you have. So it's much easier with plant-based. You eat a lot of chia seeds, you eat flax seeds, you eat nut butters, nut seeds, you eat coconut oil, you eat avocado, you know, these things. And then it's easy to eat that. A lot of that gets you quite full and satisfied, and you get a lot of nutrition from it. You don't need a whole lot other than that. It's very easy, actually. And what the main thing is you're not eating a high glucose diet, which is, and usually when we talk about glucose, we're talking about refined sugars, which are really not healthy. They're not healthy. They're not metabolized with our best interests at heart. Okay, so refined glucoses, refined sugar. But yeah, that's a very good idea for everything. But you got to remember, you got to make sure you know what you're doing. And I haven't met many people at all that understand the whole ketogenic. It's complete. It's like every other thing in what they're calling now. I can't even use their words. Functional medicine. It's not functional medicine. It's fashionable medicine. It's ridiculous. Most of the doctors don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. They're doing it because that's what's being done. They're giving NAD plus. Why? Because NAD plus is the new fad. It's important, yes. When? How much? What frequency? Are there any situations where you shouldn't do it? Is there anything else you can do to support that therapy? And none of these questions are asked. And you got to learn to ask all these very questions with anything that any doctor wants to do to you. Don't just let them do things, and don't just think because they're a doctor that they're smart or caring. All right, so what are your thoughts about AIs, aromatase inhibitors, for a 9 millimeter ER positive, PR positive invasive carcinoma with ductal and lobular features, clear margins, 1 node of 3 removed, positive with macromets, oncotype 6, 19 radiation therapies to full breast and axilla, was on letrozole for 5 months, experienced nausea and severe fibromyalgia flare. Blood tests show high amylase, which is, as we all know, is an enzyme from the pancreas. Stopped letrozole, not a fan of medication. Suggestions as to what to take to control estrogen. DES daughter, okay. Interested in scheduling an appointment. Okay. So anyway, DES, diacylstilbestrol, which was used as a birth control back in the 50s, early 50s. And they just forgot to tell them that if you have children born from there, they're going to have problems. Now, in this woman here, this Deborah that just asked this question, that's not necessarily the cause of what you have. There's an association, but I wouldn't even go there. I understand that you have that, but don't go there. Don't go there. But you got some chronically fermenting cells. That's it. Okay. Now, what did they do? They gave all these names. Doesn't it sound like they're smart? Everybody, please listen to this, okay? This is really important. I want to blow apart what they do, okay? They are masters at linguistic manipulation, all right? And they're going to linguistically tie you in a knot and turn you into a ball of fear and then start cutting parts of you off and injecting you with poisons because you will be so scared you won't know what else to do but say, okay. That's what they're doing. And that's why I get angry. And that's why I'm going to tell you what they said. Because what they said, there is absolutely nothing except to convince you that they know what they're talking about. And they don't know what they're talking about because look at the data. Go into any oncology, go into any oncology floor on any house of horrors in any state of the United States or any country in the United or in the world, and you tell me what you see. Just tell me what you see. Tell me all the successes you see. Tell me the successes. Show them to me. You won't see them. So, let's go over what they said. ER positive, PR positive, invasive carcinoma with ductal and lobular features. Oh my God, are these guys smart? I'm so impressed. I got to go run to the bathroom. Okay. ER, PR positive. That means they have estrogen receptors and progesterone receptors. Huh. Let me see. Breast tissue has estrogen. How? Oh, yeah. It's breast. Oh, okay. So breast, estrogen, progesterone. Okay. So it's got estrogen receptors. Now, ductal and lobular features. Okay, let me think about what that means. Oh, they're really smart. Okay. Oh, what is a breast? The purpose of a breast is what? Well, to produce milk to feed a baby. Okay. Now, how does that happen? There's these little lobules where they're like little sacs where the milk is actually produced. And then it travels down these ducts to the nipple and comes out. So what are the parts? Lobular, these little lobular things, and the ducts. Other than that, you've got connective tissue and fat. That's it. And by the way, it's a gland, right? It's a gland. It's producing stuff. A glands produce substances for excretion. Milk is the excretion. So what is excreted? So, okay, so it's a gland, so it's called adenocarcinoma. That sounds pretty smart too, right? It just means came from a gland, originated in a gland. That's what it means. Doesn't mean anything else. Does not mean anything else. So all it means, colon, pancreas, prostate, ovaries, thyroid, they're all adeno. Okay. Now, one of three, one node positive with a macromet. What does that mean? It means they took out three. One was positive, meaning they had it had some CFCs in there. All right, so let's think back. Why did God give us lymph nodes? Well, let me see. 90% of all tissues are drained by the vein, little venules, which turn into larger veins and go all the way back to the right side of the heart, where it's pumped into the left side of the heart. The left side of the heart goes, where it's pumped into the lung, and then the lung takes it back to the left side of the heart, where it goes to the body. Okay. So that's it. So most is returned, 90% is returned from the veins, 10% is returned by lymphatic vessels, which go to lymph nodes. And what does a lymph node do? It decides whether or not an immune response is required. How does it do that? Well, sitting in there are these T cells that just graduated from the University of Thymus, and some B cells that just graduated from these little small lymph nodes, which are like community colleges, and then and some from the spleen, which is a big one. So we got B cells and T cells, and we've got, some of the, what do they call them? The guys on the kind of the Marines out there, right? The dendritic cells and the macrophages, and they come in as well. So they go into these lymph node and they make a decision. So they're draining. So you expect if there's bacteria there, if there's funguses, whatever there's there, if there's CFCs, it's going to be there. Yes, of course. As my children are older now, but when they were young, they had one word that would help them express their incredulity about something I would say or something someone else would say. And that word was duh. Anybody heard that word? Duh. Okay. Well, duh. Yeah. got some CFCs in it. Well, that's what it's supposed to do. Incredible, brilliant doctor. Okay, so now they're not done. They came up with a new one. They call it Oncotype 6. Oncotype 6. Okay, what is Oncotype? They don't tell you. Why don't they tell you? Why aren't they telling you what it is? You know what, you guys, what we're going to do, I can see right now that there are so many questions coming up about parasites that we need to have like a webinar where we're going to, I'll give you a talk on parasites. So you guys can sign up beforehand. I don't know how many we can get. We could probably get on Zoom, we could probably get 200, but I think we can use Restream and get more. And then we'll answer questions, and I'd like to maybe get all of this off, get you, because it looks like a lot of dissatisfaction. A lot of dissatisfaction because you're not getting the answer. And I know you're not getting the answer because most doctors don't know. Okay, so not only are they trying to impress you, not really impress you, but it's called linguistic manipulation. Linguistic manipulation, but they also they have a big they're very very ignorant. When I say ignorant, I mean they don't know, they weren't educated. Now let's go to oncotype 6. What is an oncotype? Okay, because this is this is the new thing. Okay, well it goes back to the whole idea of we've talked in the past about there is the somatic mutation theory for causing CFCs, which there's no proof. There's a really good proof that it's a metabolic condition, that it's an adaptation to having mitochondrial dysfunction, and in fact, that's what the Warburg was awarded the Nobel Prize for in 1931, and then we have today Thomas Seyfried carrying the torch and all that sort of thing. And we can prove it over and over, day after day after day after day, by just taking the nucleus, putting it here, the nucleus of a CFC in here, and if it's got dysfunctional mitochondria, even though the nucleus, so if it doesn't have dysfunctional mitochondria and it's the nucleus, right, with the bad genes, it doesn't become a CFC. However, if it's the other way around, it does. Okay, so you take the non bad genes and put it into the cytoplasm with defective mitochondria, and what happens? It becomes a CFC. Why? Because it's a metabolic adaptation. Okay, and I'm going to show you that here. So please hang on, you guys. Don't run anywhere. Don't be freaked out about what I'm talking about. Let's just listen to this. Okay, so you're going to get because they don't explain it. I'm going to explain it to you. Okay, so now, and what I'm going to explain to you is that what they're saying is. Not 99%, but 100% BS. Not 99, 100% BS. And if you think I'm wrong, stay tuned. Okay, so oh, by the way, let's get back to this woman, this Deborah. Okay, Deborah. Now, first of all, you wanted to know about initially you wanted to know about our aromatase inhibitors because of the ERPR. Well, I didn't forget that, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But the fact is, if they got clean margins, in other words, they apparently did a lumpectomy. They did a lumpectomy. They got clean margins, meaning there's no more CFCs that they can see. Now they wanted to do radiation. Indeed, they did. They did 19 radiation treatments to the full breast and your axilla. 1 out of 3 lymph nodes had it, and they completely irradiated your axilla. You didn't tell me, but I would like to ask you if you have any problems right now with lymphatic drainage. And I don't know, do you have any pulmonary effusions? Do you have any pericardial effusions, around the heart and all that. So anyway, if they got it all, you should say, doctor, you got it all, doc? Got it all? Clean margins? Good, great. See you later. Thank you very much. You got your money? Oh, good, I'm gone. And the doc says, well, wait. We want to do chemo and radiation. You go, I thought you got it all. Well, we did, but, just in case. Well, in case what, doc? Case what? Well, just in case there's something left. Well, what would be left? You mean microscopic? Yeah, microscopic. Oh. Why did that called stem cells? Yeah. But doctor, because you're a really smart doctor, you had all these words you were giving me. You already know that both chemo and radiation have no effect on CFC stem cells, right? You already know that. So again, now what are we doing here? You're going to find that they don't know at all. But anyway, let's get back to this onco score. Okay, so I just reading it blows my mind and gets me upset. So I have to. You remember? Okay. What? Bro. So now, here we go. First of all, this is an article. I'm referring to an article. One of the main articles is certain patterns suggest a more aggressive CFC that is more likely to come back after treatment. What? Did you hear that? Certain patterns do that. Okay, so therefore, the test results can be a score between 0 and 100. Well, if you have a 6, you're already okay. You know that. If you have early stage invasive breast CFCs and you're over 50, the scoring system is as follows. 0 to 25 means you have a low risk of it coming back. If you get hormone treatment, which means if they block your hormones with something powerful, right? In your case, they're talking about AI, which is like an anastrozole, and there's some other ones that block, usually with women that are no longer menstruating, which means they no longer have ovaries producing estrogens, right? That means all of their estrogen is being produced where? In their breast. Yeah. Because estrogens produced by women who've already had, where their cycles have stopped, are produced by conversion of androgens. Androgens are male hormones. They call them male hormones, but they're not. They're not male. It's just the difference between male and female is in terms of hormones. Not saying anything about emotions or thinking or anything like that, or bodies, but just talking about hormones. Is only the ratio, the proportions. So men have a lot of testosterone, a little bit of estrogen. Women have a lot of estrogen, a little bit of testosterone. So and then varying other proportions of those things. So that's it. But the androgens, which are the ones that become, they give the male characteristics, right? Are still produced in the adrenals, and then they wind up all over the body. And then whenever they get to like a tissue that has aromatase inhibitors, an aromatase, which is an enzyme, that aromatase changes testosterone, which is a male hormone, an androgen, into estrogen. So cells that have aromatase are in fatty tissue. That's one of the tissues, but it's a main one. And so that the woman's breast will actually have higher estrogen levels than her blood. So if you do a blood test on her, or you find urine metabolites and all that stuff, you're going to find less there than you are in the breast. So the breast is still producing, and that's why they're giving the anastrozole. The aromatase inhibitors. So okay, so anyway, so when they do hormone treatment, I don't know what they mean. Sometimes they mean they're going to give you a blocker that's going to go on the estrogen receptor and block it. Sometimes they're going to try to downregulate or block the I mean, they're going to try to downregulate the receptor, downregulate receptors, or block the receptors. And then the other time they're doing now, which is becoming more and more, and they do this unfortunately with premenopausal young women who are still menstruating. Okay, and what they do is they turn them immediately. It's called a medical castration. They turn them immediately into older women who are postmenopausal, and they do the same thing with men with prostate. Right? They turn them into young men with who no longer produce any, not only no testosterone, but no estrogens and progesterones, because we all produce them. We both produce, both sexes produce all of them. Did I say both sexes? Did I dare to say such a thing? Let me see. Okay, I'll include then. Um, um, Wait a minute. Is there a third? Let's see. Penis. Is there a third? No, there's no third thing. So I'll stick with that. Okay. Anyway, so okay, so here's the thing: 0 to 25 means you have a low risk of it coming back if you get hormone. However, with this score, you'll probably not benefit from receiving chemotherapy. Okay. So what has this just told you? Well, they'll actually tell you in a minute. Wait. Now, a score between 26 and 100, well, that's a pretty big range. I mean, 97 and 27, yeah, means you have a higher risk that the disease might come back. In this case, both hormone treatment and chemotherapy are going to be recommended. Oh my God. How? If you have early stage, which they made up, invasive, that just means it went through the duct. It's no longer in the duct. It either went through the lobule or went through the duct, right? It doesn't necessarily go anywhere. It just broke the wall. The scoring is and you're under 50. If you're 50 or younger, the scoring is as follows. A score of 15 or smaller means you have a low risk of the CFC returning if you get hormone therapy. And you will probably not benefit from receiving chemotherapy. A score between 16 and 20 means you have a low to medium risk, whatever the hell that means, of the CFC returning if you get hormone therapy. There may be a small benefit of receiving chemotherapy, but the benefits are not outweighed side effects. Oh my God. They care about me. They care. Look what they just said. If I have a 19 or a 17, then they're going to tell me it's not worth it. But if I have a 21, it's worth it. The side effects are worth it. What are the side effects? You mean other than death? Well, no bone marrow, no hair, can't eat. No, chronic nausea. Don't really feel like living anymore. These are side effects. They call them side effects. Are they on the side? The side of what? If it's happening to you, it's not on the side of anything. It's right in the middle, and you feel it. Okay, listen, if you guys think I'm like over the top, you haven't been at this long enough. Because these guys are over the top. They are over the top. I know, I can see a lot of your questions. Some of you aren't really hearing what I'm saying. It's too bad. Please. Good. All right. I'm glad you hear it. Good. Hear it. Please hear it. Now, okay, so this is if you're younger. Remember, you're younger than 50. You've got early stage invasive, and you have a score of 15 or smaller. Means, okay, 16 and 20 means this is the one where they care about you. There may be small benefits, not worth the risk. But a score between 21 and 25 means you have a medium risk, now the chemotherapy benefits may outweigh the risk. Now a score between 26 and 100 means that you have a higher risk that the disease might come back from where? Who knows where? They're lurking in your shadows. Okay, both hormone treatment and chemotherapy are likely recommended. So do you understand what they just did? They just gave you a lot of blah, 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 blah. They give the reasons to justify why they can do either chemo, hormonal therapy, or both. Now they can justify it to them, and you think they're really smart because they've got a lot of studies that show whatever they think it does. If you read what they're saying, they're not showing you anything. They're not showing you anything. What are they telling you? They didn't tell you anything. What does a small to medium risk mean? I'm gonna tell you something. If you have a small to medium risk of anything and it happens to you, it's a high risk. It's not a risk. It's a real deal. It's happening. Now, if you have DCIS, which is stage 0, you got that 0. You know, when I studied math, I don't know, maybe it's old math, but when I studied math, 0 meant nothing. But I don't know. I'm old school. I get it. You know, I'm one of those old schoolers who still, it's absurdly thinks that men can't get pregnant. I don't know why I got that thought in my mind. It's hard to get it. I'm working on it. I'm going to try to come up with a way of envisioning that. Okay. So anyway, so DCIS, right, which is 0. But here, if you've been diagnosed with DCIS, diagnosed means you've been cursed with this word. The results are called the DICIS score, and the numbers are different. Oh my God, these guys, you know, I can't even believe it. They are allowing us to be on the same planet with them. Are we not blessed? We're blessed. So a score of 38 or lower means you have a low risk of CFCs returning, and the risk of radiation treatment outweighs any benefit. Okay, so you got score 0. I mean, you got it's nothing except some little, you know, cells are having a little, they haven't done anything yet. They're just adapting. So now they want to use radiation. They want to use ionizing radiation. Where is the radiologist when you're getting the radiation? Hiding behind 2 walls of lead and wearing an apron and got his head up his okole, as they say in Hawaii. Okole that's where the radiation oncologist is. He's also there when he's squashing your breast and having somebody else squash and irradiate that. He's not around, or she. Okay, a score between 39 and 54 means that you're at medium risk, and it's unclear if it will help you. However, 54 or higher, definitely you're going to benefit. Now, they don't describe what benefit means. What does benefit mean? A lot of times when they get these drugs passed and they talk about benefit is 3 months of progression-free survival. Well, you can take that and wrap it around your neck and pull as hard as you can. 3 months of progression-free survival means it didn't do anything for 3 months. Now it is. What? You know, the thing is, they're actually serious. They actually talk. Okay. So there was a big study that they took 878 patients, right? They initially identified this. This was in England, right? Big study. Now the oncogene, what is the oncotype? It's looking at 21 different genes and figuring out how important they are in terms of producing CFCs for them to, and they call it the oncotype D diagnostic 21 gene recurrence score. Oh my God. I mean, oh my God. Are they just impressive? You're not impressed? I'm blown away. The recurrence score is a genomic-based algorithm. You got that algorithm that guides adjuvant chemotherapy treatment decisions for women. Whoa. Let's analyze what they just said to us. They're going to take 21 genes and they're not telling us what they're doing with it yet, but they're saying this, and it's a score, recurrence score, genomic based, based on genes. But I'm not going to say based on the genes, I'm going to say genomic based. Okay, again, impressing you. Algorithm means what? You don't decide. Your doctor doesn't decide. Nobody decides. They already decided. They already decided. It's called the algorithm. Okay, kids, let's follow the algorithm. Let's follow the algorithm. You don't think. Don't think. Doctor, don't think. We already made the decision. And if you don't follow the algorithm, you are not practicing in the standard of care. Therefore, the board finds you whatever. Yeah, the medical board comes up to you. So now, okay, so the oncogene diagnostic 21 gene recurrence score is a genomic-based algorithm that guides adjuvant. Adjuvant means what? Nothing. Once again, nothing. They've got a term for it. They mean, pre-adjuvant, pre-induction, post-induction. They use all these words, which only means you either do the chemo before you're going to do surgery, or before you're going to do radiation, or you do it after. That's all that means. But they use these words. I know, I'm sure radiation. Listen, let me tell you, don't ever agree to radiation. There are only certain times you need it. If you got a tumor in your brain growing really and quickly, and there's nothing else working, you're going to have to do it. It's growing on your spine. It's about to sever your spinal cord. It's about to sever your femur or something else. It's about to cause a big problem, and it's a life-threatening problem. You got to use it at that point. All right? But that's it. That's it. Otherwise, you're going to get the problems from it. So anyway, this is a diagnostic gene-based recurrence score. Genomic-based algorithm. In other words, they decide for you. For women with early stage ER positive and PR positive. That's all it is. That's all it is. Now, I want you to listen what they say, because please listen to this. I want you to listen to this. Yeah, it is frustrating to be a doctor in the U.S. It's frustrating to be a doctor in any country. They're all doing the same. They're all following the Rockefeller plan. The Rockefeller plan did this. They made this, right? 1910. We know what happened in 1910, right? So they're all following it. Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, China even. China is pretty cool. They go do different things. They don't necessarily do that. Japan, but Japan still got its compo, which is its traditional stuff. But they all do. All of Europe and Africa, and they're all following the AMA. Rockefeller. But anyway, so let me just say something. However, there are age-related, and listen to this, it's very important. However, there are age-related differences in chemotherapy benefit for women with intermediate oncotype recurrence scores that are not well understood. Meaning they don't know what they're talking about. That's just another way of saying it, okay? Menstrual cycling in younger women, under 50, menstrual means you still have your period, is associated with hormonal fluctuations. Again, duh. Okay, so we got that one. It's a duh. That might affect the now here, listen, this is it. This is it. Might affect the expression of genomic predictive biomarkers and alter recurrence scores. Sounds smart, right? They sound like they said something. Do you think they said something? They didn't say a thing. But they'll interpret this for you. Okay. If you're having your menstrual cycle because you're a woman under 50, you're going to have hormones going up and down. Yeah. That's how you get a menstrual cycle. Okay. Now that is going to affect which genes are being expressed. Oh, okay. Well, what does that have to do with anything? They're not going to tell you. You know what they're not going to tell you? They're not going to tell you that that's all they're talking about. What genes are being expressed, not mutations and all that stuff. It's what genes are being expressed. They're being expressed. Why are they being expressed? Well, let me ask you something. If I take stem cells mesenchymal stem cells from an embryo, and I inject it into my heart, what do you think those stem cells are going to become? What are they going to do? They're going to become a heart. Why? Heart cells. Why? Because that's the milieu in which they exist. Okay, so their genetic expression will be heart and not liver. They won't do liver stuff. They won't do kidney stuff. They won't do skin stuff. They won't do brain stuff. They're only going to do heart stuff. And that means they're going to suppress all of it. So that's their genetic expression. Based on what? The environment in which they find themselves. Oh, is that unique? No, it's the way it works, the way biology works. Okay. So when they're saying to you that all that we're talking about, the only problem is in menstruating women, basically they just told you. So if I'm not clear to you, let me rephrase it. When they do a genetic evaluation of your CFCs, wherever they are, I don't care what organ, they're looking at really what genes are being expressed. And the genes are being expressed because of the environment in which they find themselves, period. So what do? Change the environment. You mean I didn't have to go to medical school? Is that easy? Yeah. Well, it's not easy to do. I mean, the concept is easy. It's difficult to make those changes. Anyway. And I mean, how did they come up with these studies? RNA, remember RNA? That's not really bad, right? It's not really bad. We could inject it and people don't. RNA was extracted from 25 pairs. Oh, by the way, they started out with how many? They started out with 878 patients. In the end, they came down with 9 women, 16 women under 50, and 9 women over 50. Out of 878, they only got that result. They could really get results out of. So these conclusions that have determined your oncology type are from 25 women, 16 over and 9 under 50 years of age. Okay. So the RNA was extracted from 25 pairs of invasive ER positive breast CFC samples. And then the 21 gene signature analogous to the Oncotype diagnostic platform was assessed through quantitative real-time PCR and experimental recurrence scores were calculated using the Oncotype diagnostic algorithm. Using their algorithm. In other words, okay. Now, what did they find? This is very, very, very important. Very, very important. Listen carefully, you guys. Your lives and your children's lives and your friends' lives depend on you understanding this. We all have to understand it, okay? All right. Because they're telling us right here. There was a significant, that means a lot, inverse association, just association, between the person's age and discordance in the recurrence score. For every 1 year decrease of age, discordance in recurrence scores between paired samples increased by 0.08 units. Now, the reason they talk like this I'm not even sure what they're trying to, why they're doing it, but because they're trying to hide the truth by burying it in this pile of words. Discordance means it didn't match. It didn't match. And there's an inverse association between the age and, why don't they just say there's a direct correlation with the younger you are, the less it's, anyway, they wouldn't say that's too simple, too simple. So there's an inverse association between your age and your discordance. Why is this based? Because here's what they say. Discordance in recurrence scores for women under the age of 50 was driven primarily by proliferation negative and HER2 positive associated genes. So therefore, the changes in gene expression with menstrual cycle stage could affect Oncotype diagnostic restage. What? So you mean if you are a woman that's having menstrual cycles and your cells are doing what they do, then you can't count on this test. Yeah. But you already said the test doesn't work in older women. Okay. But what was the reason for the test? What's the reason of coming up with the Oncotype? What does it mean? It just means you can use this treatment or that treatment. So again, Again, and the final conclusion for this study and all studies is, how do we justify this algorithm, which is a sales algorithm where they're selling products and services? This is what they're selling, products and services. Now, here's the discussion, right, which is the last part of research. The Oncotype Diagnostic 21 Gene Recurrence Score Assay is used to guide adjuvant chemotherapy treatment decisions for women with early stage ER positive or HER2 negative. However, our analysis of the paired breast cancer provides the first evidence that patients' age affects concordance in 21 gene expression. You know what? They're not. You know they're not saying it. You understand that. You know. Right? Discordance is primarily due to differences in expression of genes. I mean, all this work was conducted on archived breast CFCs. There's no clinical information surrounding the patient's menstrual histories or menopausal status. What? Yeah, you heard it. I mean, please, you guys, don't, what do you use in place of Lupron? Okay, good. Okay. I'll solve this riddle that they made. It's not a riddle. I'll solve it though in a minute. But I just want to give you two last things that you need to understand, okay? All cells use ATP to provide a certain amount of energy. And that energy is the units are put in what they call in kilojoules per mole. Okay, so joules is the same kind of energy unit you use in electricity, right? Because that's what we are, electromagnetic beings, yeah, on a biological level. Okay, so anyway, eating, eating, that habit we all have. I don't recommend it. So what I do recommend is eat as little as possible. Satisfy your nutrient and energy requirements, and that's it. Stop. Don't go beyond that. It's not worth it. You'll find yourself in an ICU being swallowed up by machines. That's what will happen. Keep eating. Don't clean your body out. Don't go to sleep early. Don't move your body around. Don't meditate and pray. You will wind up in an ICU with being swallowed up by machines. Anyway, so it turns out that every cell in the body needs approximately what they call, it's a minus, but it's not minus 56 kilojoules per mole, regardless if it's a heart cell beating 100,000 times a day or an elbow just sitting around being an elbow, right? Same thing. They need that much energy. Okay? That's what they need. So now when the energy, and remember the energy, most of the energy goes to, like, I think 55 or a little bit more percentage of the energy that the cell makes goes to just maintaining cellular structure. In other words, they have these things called sodium potassium pumps all around the cell membrane that keep the sodium going out and the potassium going in. Why? Because that allows for an electrical gradient that allows the cell to maintain its relationship with its environment. So it's essential. Once that's established, the cell exists, then the rest of the energy is used for cellular function. So if it's a heart cell, it's doing heart stuff. Kidney cells doing kidney stuff. Skin cell is doing skin stuff. Okay. All right. So let's talk about oncogenes, right? Oncogenes. Those are the genes that cause CFCs. Right. I'm being dramatic. Why am I being dramatic? Because they're not only your basic liar, like car salesman, right? Or the guy at the Apple store, whatever, it's all lies. Not only that, but harming human beings, terrorizing them. So it's not okay. And I'm being dramatic to make a point because I got to get through those walls. Okay, and why do I say there are walls? Because I can still see when I'm talking here that you guys haven't, you're asking questions that some of you are not listening. Anyway, oncogenes are turned on to support fermentation because the cell has lost its mitochondria. Any cell that loses its mitochondria, a significant portion has to now ferment. And so what happens? That causes oncogenes to be turned on to support fermentation. And I'm just giving you some examples. So what the way they term it is this, that a persistent, consistent impairment in respiratory function of the cell, right? Because you don't have your, causes a retrograde response that goes to the genes and changes their genetic structure so that the genes can now successfully ferment and survive, okay? So this retrograde response will activate the MYC, MYC, you know those transcriptions? Okay, MYC, RAS, HIF1 alpha, AKT, mTOR, etc. They're all required to maintain and sustain the upregulation of fermentation, called in chemistry substrate level phosphorylation. These genes are turned on to support that. The loss of the P53 gene, which everyone talks about, you lost it, it's not the loss of it, it's just it gets turned down, it doesn't get deleted. Because that shifts from the mitochondria to fermentation. So the growth signaling abnormalities and unlimited ability to replicate, which is how we define CFCs, is linked directly to the requirements of glycolysis, breaking down glucose, and glutaminolysis, breaking down glutamine. That's it. There it is. That's it. It's not all this onco scores and all that sort of thing. This is it. We know this. It's not a secret. But it's a secret to them because they don't tell you about it. So anyway, it drives me crazy, this stuff. We are functional doctors, yeah. Okay. All right, I see you guys are starting to drop off. You're getting tired of 6:30 already here in the great state of Arizona. You know what blows me away? People are actually like that. People actually like that. Anyway, I hope I explained that well. Now, so the question is, what are you using in place of Lupron? You use nothing in place of Lupron because Lupron wasn't needed in the first place. Okay, because the problem is not estrogen receptors and estrogen. Okay, there are two kinds of estrogen receptors, and we've talked about this repeatedly. We will continue to talk about it repeatedly. And by the way, those of you who think that they don't, you've got problems with your colon or pancreas or stomach, prostate, so you don't have to listen to this, you do. Why? Estrogen receptors on those organs as well. Got that? Stomach, pancreas, bladder, colon, pancreas, prostate, ovaries, vagina, cervix. Okay, all of these things. You even have estrogen receptors in your bones. Do you ever see a female pelvis versus a male pelvis? Take a ball, I don't know, maybe the size of a cantaloupe, not a big cantaloupe, and try to put it through the opening on a male pelvis, and then try to put it through the opening on a female pelvis. Whoa, you're going to see the female pelvis will accept the cantaloupe. Okay. So anyway, so the bones have estrogen receptors. Now, even your larynx has estrogen receptors. Most women have higher voices, right, than men. Men have lower voices. So there's a lot of areas in our body that have it. Now, the thing is, And lungs, by the way, lungs. A lot of it. So estrogen. There's two kinds: estrogen receptor alpha or estrogen receptor beta. So beta receptors usually shrink. Alpha receptors grow. Things. So therefore, we should all be looking for how do we do. I'd like to do two things. What I'd like to do, if you ask me, is turn off the alpha receptor, the estrogen receptor alpha, turn them off as much as possible, and then really hammer the betas so we shrink. We have a net effect of shrinking. Be pretty cool. How can we do that? Let me see. Is there any drugs around that can do that? Any drugs? Let me see. No, none. None. How many? Zero. And that's with a capital zero. That's a capital Z-E-R-O, zero. What does do it? Oh my God, don't tell anyone because you can't make a lot of money. It's called flax seeds and tofu. Oh my God. Natto. You mean soy? Yeah, non-GMO soy. Yeah. Phytoestrogen. No, you're not supposed to take those. Well, wait a minute. You're not supposed to eat soy because it's banned for you, right? Well, can somebody explain? I just have one question. How come Japanese live 10 years longer than us and they eat soy all day long? Oh, let's not talk about that. Anyway, because it turns out that soy really is what they call it's a beta agonist. Okay. Mild alpha agonist. So it sits on the alpha doing mild things, but the beta is strong, so it overshadows it. But the fact that it's sitting on the alpha means that the estradiol and estrone, which are the can't get on there now. So it's blocking it, kind of like what? Tamoxifen. Yeah. Except no side effects. Why? Because it's a phytonutrient. Oh, what does that mean? It's a nutrient that comes from plants. But you notice the word nutrient. Nutrient means what? Oh, the body needs it. It can use it. That's what a nutrient is. All right. Okay, so where are we now? Thank you, everybody. I see you're all active. That's very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Oh, by the way, all those of you that do mistletoe, you all use mistletoe, right? I mean, a lot of people use mistletoe, right? Right. And it works pretty nicely, right? Right. What does it do? Well, it enhances, stimulates the immune system, and it's also got some direct killing effects of the CFCs. But you know what is the main part of the plant that does that? Are you ready? It's something called lignans. And right? And haven't you all been told not to eat lignans? And haven't you all been told not to eat spinach and kale because it's got oxalates? And vitamin C has oxalates. So you believe all this stuff, right? You've got to come to know that they're going to lie in every possible way they can. You need lignans. Not all of them. Yeah, there's some that don't work really well, but they are a big part of it. That's why we get much more benefit from eating seeds than getting refined oils. Anyway, there's full of lies out there. Listen, I want to tell you. I want you to realize how insane they have and what they've gotten us to do. Wait, do you have a training school? Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna very soon and have a training school. Yeah, for all different levels of people too, right? Like so, doctors and nurses, but also people that want to be health coaches and things like that. But anyway, what can I do for EP? I can't get away from this. Remember, Okay, so I didn't get very far. I don't get very far because I get stuck on stuff. But beautiful. Okay, beautiful. If you're anyone you want to sign up, I'm gonna make a great idea. I'm gonna put a thing on the website where you can tell me your desired goal in terms of being educated or trained. You know, whether you're a nurse or you're a doctor or you want to be like a health coach or you're a massage therapist or you know what I mean, stuff like that. So we can do. Um, so I'll put that on there. I'm not. I don't do it. I'd have someone help me do that. Anyway, Deborah, that was a great question. Thank you. You took us all along on a nice little journey. That was very important for everybody to hear. Okay, very important. Okay. Okay, let's go to another one. Let's go past all this stuff. Sorry, there's so many questions I can't get them all, but let me go over to another platform now. Anyway, triple negative. We'll talk about all this stuff. Okay, remember, triple negative, triple. You know, if you look at them, right, the guys that write all this stuff, the algorithm freaks and the algorithm authors, they say that triple negative is the worst. They also say that triple positive is almost as bad. So I'm just saying, if you start, you know, you got to like throw everything they say away because it's all madness. It's if you follow it, it's going to freak you out. So here's what you got to do. You got to do this. You've got to get healthy, and I want you all to relax. Stop looking for cures, and just get back to health. There's only one way to get health. Only one. Now write this one down. There's only one way to get health, and that's through healthy living. There isn't another way. You can't buy it. You can't force it. You can't negotiate it. You have to earn it. So what is then? What does that mean? That means living a life that as closely as possible approximates a life in which all of our biological, psychological, and spiritual needs are being met. And you don't have to go to school for all that stuff. It's right at your fingertips. Dogs do it, cats do it, birds do it, snakes do it, worms do it, bears do it, dolphins do it. They all do it, and they don't even know they're doing it because they're not doing it. God's doing it. But they are under the auspices of instinct. Instinct is the divine web by which all creatures are connected to the wisdom of God. And again, for those of you who don't like the word God, use divine intelligence. If you don't like that, use nature. Okay, so that baby little spider comes out, just got out of the nest, immediately walks up and starts spinning a web that it would blow your mind if you were a mechanical engineer. And that new little baby bird just gets up into that flock, and that whole flock makes a 90-degree turn and does it just on time. Did not go to aviation academy. How? How? How do they know what to do? Anyway, so we were kicked out of the web of instinct by our parents, right? Because they told us no, stop, don't, no, stop, don't, no, stop, don't, no, stop, don't, no, stop, don't. Over and over and over and over and over and over. And how? What? From before we could talk, we heard those words. We're still hearing it. Now they're telling me I got to wear a mask. So I walk in the store and they go, no, stop. What? Don't stop, stop. Don't go any further until you're wearing a mask. What? And so we're still being told no, stop, don't. Anyway, the no, stop, don't, when you get pre-verbal before you're verbal, it tells you only one thing: your parents don't like you. They're rejecting you. That's what you know. What else do you know? You're a kid. You don't have any words. It's a fundamental rejection in our lives that happens, and it's so powerful that every relationship that we get involved with as adults must have a contract, because we don't trust each other. Even the most beautiful part of life, which we call love, we bring it down to a civil contract where a clerk in some office stamps it. Well, that's the old days. Now it just gets certified on some sort of computer. Doesn't matter. It's not a governmental issue. It has nothing to do with civil authorities. It has to do between you and the person you love and God. Why don't you don't need a civil contract with your children, right? Anyway, what I'm saying is that it's based on that thing. So we lost instinct. We don't even know what to eat. You think dogs have to think about it? You think horses attend seminars? Horses have, what is it, 13, 9, I forget, blood types. Huh. Do you think some horses should eat hamburgers and some horses should eat alfalfa? Let's figure this out. It's really important. Then we can teach the horses, okay? Anyway, we complicate and obfuscate. Why? For control. It's not it's extremely incomprehensibly complex on a metabolic level. Yeah. But in general, what do you do to live your life? Easy. Imagine it's 7,000 years ago. What would you be doing at what time of day? I'll tell you something, within an hour after the sun went down, you'd be asleep. You'd be asleep. Within an hour after sun. You'd wake up naturally at 4 a.m. You'd probably look around you and you'd be in awe of the sunrise. And you might go into it, and you'd be your brain would be pretty much in alpha waves, because you'd be surrounded by beautiful earth. You'd be in alpha. You'd be communing with nature and with God. And you might get up and take a little run or a walk, or some stuff like that, or start taking care of things that you need to take care of. But you'd be up early and you'd feel good and you'd feel wonderful. And you'd move around. You wouldn't put shoes on. You'd keep your feet on the ground. And when you would talk to someone, you would say what you mean. And they would say what they mean. And you would express whatever it is and then go do whatever you had to do. There would be no reason not to be honest and truthful. There'd be no reason for it. And it wouldn't come to your mind to be dishonest. It wouldn't come to your mind to be anything other than authentic. And what would happen with all that? What would happen with all that? Well, there'd be no illnesses. How could he say that? Well, when I look around, wild animals who've never come into contact with us, and before the earth got poisoned, I mean, even a polar bear now never met humans, has PCBs in their fat when they do autopsies. Yes, that's right. So wild animals died of 3 causes. Trauma, they got eaten, they fell off a cliff, or they broke a leg, they couldn't move, whatever it is. Trauma, starvation, and old age. They didn't get depressed, they didn't get insomnia, they didn't get arthritis, they didn't get heart attacks, they didn't have stroke, they didn't have tumors, they didn't have any of that stuff. Why? They were living in harmony with nature. Because why? We are nature. We are one of the expressions of nature. Enlivened and kept by the breath of God, the holy breath of God, into nature, and you have beings. Here we are. Okay, so we've gone really far. What is our thanks? How do we thank God? We said, listen, good thing you took a day off. I mean, you forgot. You give me tomatoes. I want tomato sauce. What's with the tomatoes? Come on. And I had to wait for Steve Jobs to come around before we can get spy phones. So anyway, we're gonna fix it, right? Anyway, I got a little bit of a story for you. I know I'm gonna really bother some people, but I gotta say it, and I don't think you should get so bothered by it. And don't worry about it. I'm not here to do anything to tell you what I know, what I learned. Okay, so don't worry about it. If you don't agree, don't agree. Remember the story of the Cain and Abel? Remember which one God liked the most? God kind of liked Abel more than Cain. Well, what did they do for a living? What did Cain do? Well, Cain built a plow. He built the first machine. And you build a machine because what God gave us was inadequate. We had to modify it. So the first machine was a plow. And then what did he do? Out of his vanity, killed his brother. Anyway, think about that. Right now, we're all sitting here looking at a machine, a far advanced machine, not a plow anymore. It's a computer. And I'll tell you something about this computer. Whenever you go and look on anything up in it, you've got to put it, even if you don't write it in, it'll be put in front of it, www. You might think it means World Wide Web, but in the Hebrew language, the sixth letter of the Hebrew alphabet is equal to the W. So what's pug? Anyway, the beast. And what else do machines do? They produce things that we worship. It's called idolatry. Anyway, just stuff to think about. Let me answer some questions here. Let's go all the way up to it's so bad I can't answer all these questions. And you're all so sincere. Okay. So what do you recommend for cervical CFCs? How do you get rid of dead CFCs? All right. Well, whenever there are CFCs where we can reach, like for example, breast, thyroid, a skin lesion, lymph nodes here. If we can inject ozone, or we can put iodine, we can do a lot of things to it. Now, especially with cervical, and you can get to the cervix, you can inject things. So with the cervical, now depending on what's going on, if you've got cervical CFCs, if it's gone through and it's into the uterine wall and it's gone to the lymphatics, then it's a different story. It doesn't mean we can't treat it, do things locally. We can, but we're also going to have to do a lot of things systemically as well. And we would have had to anyway, but now at a more intense level. But you can use vaginal ozone, paint the cervix with Lugol's iodine. If it's not, try not to paint on lesions because it'll burn, but around them, and just do that every day. If you had like anywhere from 6 to about 9% food grade hydrogen peroxide, you could use that. Anyway, that's for the local effect, right? The other thing you can use is garlic. You can get garlic and activate it by squashing it in the garlic. I don't know what you call it, but anyway, and then you insert it deep into vagina, up touching the cervix, and then put a tampon in after it to kind of hold it in there when you go to sleep at night, right? And keep it right up there. It's very good medicine. But then for systemically, now the other things you got to do is we got to stop making CFCs. If we don't stop making CFCs, doesn't matter how good anyone is at getting rid of it, it'll be back. It'll be back. It'll be back. Okay? You got to stop making them. How do you stop making them? You do your cleanses. You clean out your colon. You do juice cleanses. You take care of the hidden dental. They are, you won't believe how many people have, they don't know it. They don't think they had a tooth pulled. They don't this, and they've got these dental cavitations that are like, you take them out and the CFCs are gone. I mean, it's really, really that important. And then parasites, as we all are talking about, parasites. What do we use with parasites? Well, we go with the big guns. Now, I'm not going to tell you this is not what, I'm not telling you this is what you should do, because you might need, yeah, you could douche with iodine too, but then leave some in there. Leave some in there, you know, and lie down, maybe with your hips under a couple pillows, you know, just so it's going to pool up there. But if it's hurting you, don't. If anything hurts, don't do it. Don't continue to do it. It means you've got to try find a way to get in there. Get someone that you trust to help get in there and put things around the lesions, just so you don't want pain. Pain's no good. How do you prevent oral CFCs? But by keeping your oral cavity really clean. Remember, we have a biome. We not only have a gut biome, we have a oral biome, a nasal biome, vaginal biome. Okay, so those, on all of them, and they work together, quite a lot. But so anyway, I wanted to go over the parasite thing. So you can't just use these. Now, some people don't use. What you got to do, you can't undertreat parasites because they'll just migrate from organ to organ. You can't undertreat them. Means you got to use more than one drug, and you can't just use herbs because herbs aren't going to work. You got to really knock them out. Why? Because they lay 20 to 2,000 eggs every day, right? So even if you kill them all off in a week or two, the eggs are going to hatch. What are you going to do? So so anyway, this is kind of like the main list. You need a benzimidazole. A benzimidazole is either albendazole, mebendazole, fenbendazole. I like mebendazole and fenbendazole because mebendazole also gets stem cells, CFC stem cells. And you do them, 222 milligrams 3 times a day, or some people do 444 milligrams twice a day. Depend. You can do a lot like that of the fenbend. The mebendazole anywhere from 100 to 500 milligrams 3 times a day. You can do like that. I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying this is just what people do. Ivermectin at least 12 milligrams 3 times a day. I was talking to someone recently. They had a problem with ivermectin. They can't do it at all, so we can't do it. But I'm just saying. So and then that would also be good for maintenance, right? I would do to keep maintenance after you're done getting rid of most of them. You're going to do. I do ivermectin and fenbendazole daily for a while. How about as long as you're alive? Yeah, good stuff. You take a couple weeks off here and there, maybe a month off here and there. In the realm of the future, so your body doesn't get too used to it. And then do a good thorough parasite cleanse, maybe once a year, no matter where you are, right? Once a year for a month, maybe a month. Either 2 cycles of 3 weeks on, 1 week off, like that. And you do 3 weeks on, 1 week off because you need time for it to come out. Now, what else? For the babies to hatch, right? What else we would use is also niclosamide. And niclosamide is amazing. Look up niclosamide and CFCs. Look up ivermectin and CFCs. Chronically fermenting cells, also known as cancer. Okay, if you want to use that word, but you have to when you're going in the search engine. You don't have to use Google. You don't have to use Google. You don't have to use Google. You don't have to use Google because they're going to use you. Okay, so go brave. A lot of things. Anyway, niclosamide, praziquantel, really important. It gets flukes, little flukes or little flatworms. They get into the liver, get into the blood. So praziquantel, 600 milligrams 3 times a day. Although you're not going to find a pharmacy that's going to fill it because they're going to say, well, we're only supposed to take 1 for 2 or 3 days. So you've got to find is how do you, uh, how do you find a cooperative pharmacy and all that too, right? And you got, because even if you might get a doctor to write it for you, yeah, you got to have a cooperative pharmacy as well. So, or you can go online, right? Indian Mart. Okay, good. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, a lot of good stuff out of India. Um, and then now remember, whenever you're getting rid of a lot of problems, like woman asked before about dead CFCs and stuff like that. Well, the the way that God takes care of dead matter and recycles it back into life is through funguses. So funguses, which is why a portion of our gut needs to be a certain amount of funguses to recycle the dead matter. So it's not that you get candida, you get candida overgrowth. Because why do they grow up? Because other guys go down. Why? Because you're not eating human food. Yeah. So I mean, it's real. It always comes back to the same thing. um, so you want to take like fluconazole, like 150 milligrams twice a day, and nystatin, 500 million units, 500,000 units. That comes in pills. You can take it twice a day. You can do that either all the time with 3 weeks on, but then you have a week off. You can do a liver flush or something like that, or you can do 3 weeks on with the antiparasitics, and then 1 week with the antifungals. And then the other one, all the ones that I mentioned before, the the ivermectin, are for the worms, the helminths. But there are other kinds of parasites called protozoa, such as giardia, such as toxoplasmosis, such as Gardnerella, such as amoebic dysentery. Heard of those? So yeah, and so you need something like tinidazole and metronidazole, tinidazole and metronidazole, or uh, Alinea. Okay, Alinea. Those three are good for the, and the tinidazole would be like 100 milligrams 3 times a day, twice, 2, 3 times a day. Metronidazole, again, also 2 or 3 times a day. Um, so, what can kill parasites in the drain? I would just pour Drano. They won't like Drano. They will also won't like bleach. Yeah, cholangiocarcinoma does come from liver flukes, and in Thailand is oddly enough is the cholangiocarcinoma capital of the planet Earth. They've got the most, the highest, because they eat this thing called bala. And bala is basically a raw fish, and the fish are the fish that um, you're welcome, Saladi Cup. Um, grows in the fish patties, right? So anyway, listen, it's late, you guys. You got to go to sleep. I got to go to sleep. Well, not yet. I got an hour, but anyway. But you guys that are on the East Coast, and oh my God, if you're from Europe, so sorry. Um, uh, if you're in Asia, it's just your day's starting, right? So very good. So anyway, Sawadee Kap, Kapumakap, and Aloha, Namaskar, Namaste, and so happy you joined me. Thank you for coming, and appreciate it. And not that I mean, you know what my payment is. I get paid. I feel good. I feel good when I let you guys just know the truth, because I'm just so upset, so blown away by what they do. So my, I, what, I just want to see you guys wake up. I want to see. Let's wake up. Okay, it's time to wake up. We have to. We owe it to our children to wake up. Okay. All right. See you. See you next week.